Let's just talk first and foremost about the Apple conversation. How worrying is this sort of violence erupting? One that you'd already braced yourself for, perhaps?
Well, the reason I find it so worrying, Caroline, is this is at least one we know about. Which are the ones we don't know about? So as we look ahead to how we roll out at the end of this year, which has been a very tentative one coming into the holiday season, if more of this is happening across China that we're not aware of, it means we are going to get some more bad news on supply chains as we head into the beginning of the next one. That's what I'm looking out for, certainly in the public markets.
Hey, Anne, this is a really interesting story, right? Why are we concerned about Zhengzhou? Zhengzhou accounts for 4 out of every 5 iPhone 14 Pro handsets made, right? When you look at the stock story, the equity story, are you worried? You know, this is a stock that's fared better than the S&P 500, but it's still down, and a lot of voices in the market saying, I'm not sure how impactful this will be in either direction for Apple.
Well, you heard from Ian just the importance of that part of the world in terms of the concentration of chip manufacturing and consumer electronics manufacturing. I think in terms of the impact on the Apple story, the much bigger one has been around global demand. Everyone's accepted that supply chain disruption is going to be par for the course for a little bit longer. The big uncertainty right now is how is consumer sentiment, how is consumer debt going to start to dampen expenditure on discretionary items such as the iPhone, and when is inflation going to abate so that disposable incomes start coming back up again? I think those are the bigger drivers for the Apple story.
And let's delve into that a little bit more, Anne, because of course you do have a wide array of investments and indeed areas that you like to focus on, retail first and foremost as well. Talk to us a little bit about, as we anticipate how Apple products will sell, but how every product will sell in the next few days. What is the consumer looking like to you?
Well, you're really seeing, Caroline, and we've seen this, this isn't the first time. We saw this in 2008, 2009. My background's private equity, and whenever this kind of dynamic came about, we would look to try to find 2 areas of retail to focus on, and including in tech and consumer products that are tech-oriented. Higher income consumers tend to do fine. It is the lower income households that really struggle. The higher income individuals and consumers tend to trade down. We've seen that with Walmart. I'm sure that some of the Best Buy news that we saw where people were bargain hunting, that's your higher income consumer trying to go and find really great deals right now. That's not your struggling household that's really been hit the hardest by inflation, really been hit the hardest by energy prices. So I think we're going to see value retail do very well because everyone's going there. And I think we're going to see luxury hold up when it comes to things like gifting and special holiday season expenditure.
It's really bifurcated, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it's painful, as always. The same people seem to get hurt, the same people seem to win. But interestingly, do the same players win? I'm thinking also of Amazon, which you have a big exposure to. This is a company that's become so large in every part of our lives, whether it's the way we consume, the visuals, whether it's about the way we spend. Are they going to do well navigating this environment?
Do you know what I love about Amazon, actually, Caroline? And you know, I've talked about this in the past. I think that Amazon becomes its most innovative and its most creative, and frankly, its gutsiest when it comes to these kinds of environments. So Amazon really announced that they were going to be launching telehealth services. I'm sure you saw that. They've been trying to push into healthcare. They bought PillPack. They've been looking at ways to integrate pharma into their Prime services. But this is where you see the Amazon stepping back and saying, okay, how am I going to allocate my capital now? It's actually not going to be on consumer stuff. It's going to be in services in places like healthcare. So I think those pivots are actually the strongest indicators right now for where we're going to see longer term investment trends.
Anne, another huge story of the week, Disney. Bob Iger back, Bob Chapek out. Your reaction, please, as an investor in that company.
Well, I'm going to start as a Brit, since there are now 3 of us here, but I was playing...
The fourth so far, we had Ian too.
Really. So I was playing Take That Back for Good, almost, as the kind of the jump-off for when I saw that announcement. Look, I think it's very good to have a safe pair of hands back in the saddle. And I think, Ed and Caroline, when you look at what's happened over the last 6 to 9 months, whether it's private companies, whether it's public ones, the businesses that have had bad news, whether it's attrition subscription in Netflix, whether it's been Snap, for example, where we've seen the number of users fall down. Let's go and use that word again, Caroline, bifurcation. The ones that have at least come out with a plan have been rewarded. Netflix. We don't really know if it's going to work in the long run with their ad tier, but they've been rewarded. The ones with no plan, Snap, have been absolutely punished. Disney, to me, is going to be a little bit somewhere in the middle right now. So we've got a trusted, safe pair of hands back in the CEO seat, but we need to hear what the plan is going to be. And until we hear what that plan is, I do think we're going to have some uncertainty around Disney. For the moment, I'm pleased, but I want to hear the details.
Hey, Anne, we're so grateful to have you to wrap the news of the week. But just very quickly before you go, give us the Anne Berry 2023 outlook.
Oh, you know what? I wish I were the bearer of brilliant news going into the Thanksgiving season, but I've been a bit more bearish than some. And I think that's because we're riding this sort of bubble at the moment of optimism that the Fed's going to start slowing down on their rate hikes. But I think this issue of how much the consumer is suffering, not just in the US, also in Europe. I don't think we talk enough about Europe here in the US right now, and the impact. I think we're going to see that filtering through in 2023. So I'm really looking at much sort of safer stories right now, much less discretionary spending. I'm looking at all sorts of investments, particularly on the private side, that are sort of longer term plays.